Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are breaking down a seriously paradigm-shifting concept from our source material. We're talking about finally stepping out of that exhausting, forced hustle culture we are all just so incredibly used to, and stepping into something profoundly different, a state of intuitive flow. So let's just dive right into it. I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever had one of those unexplainable gut feelings? You know the kind, that quiet, undeniable pull to just go one way instead of another. Or maybe you've had the sense that the steps you were taking weren't entirely your own, like you were somehow plugged into a much deeper rhythm. It's that little inner voice that just knows. Well, that exact feeling, that's what we're unpacking today. Here is our flight plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at hustle versus divine flow. Next, reading the three signals. Then, navigating storms and detours, evicting backseat drivers, and we'll wrap up with the extraordinary new normal. All right, part one, hustle versus divine flow. Basically, two competing operating systems for your life. So, what exactly is divine autopilot? Well, first off, it isn't about desperately searching to find some brand new secret path. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's the realization that you are already on the path. Your soul already knows the way. The real challenge is just getting your mind, with its endless need for roadmaps and rigid 10-point plans, to finally quiet down and get out of the driver's seat. Think of it like a surfer riding a massive wave. They aren't trying to control the ocean, right? No way. They are deeply engaged, they're highly active, using all their skill, but they are flowing with the ocean's power, not fighting against it. That is divine autopilot. Every single day, we make a choice on how to operate. On one hand, you have manual control. This is the ego's playground. It's totally built on fear, it relies on relentless pressure, and it demands that you force things to happen. It's that exhausting, nonstop grind where every single step feels like an absolute battle. But on the other hand, we have divine autopilot, and this operates on a completely different frequency. It's guided by the soul, it relies on silence, it thrives in flow, and it is anchored in deep, profound trust. It's a shift from frantic forcing to pure, authentic expression. The crucial takeaway here literally flips the script on modern hustle culture. Get this, peace is not a distraction. It is the goal. We are constantly fed this idea that to make any real progress, you just have to sacrifice your peace of mind. But this framework argues the exact opposite. That feeling of peace, of joy, of calm, those aren't rewards for later. Those are your actual guidance systems right now. If you're constantly frantic, stressed out, and pressured, you aren't being productive. You are basically flying the plane completely blind. Moving on to section 2, reading the three signals or tuning your inner compass. So if peace is our compass, how do we actually use it? The source material breaks this down into 3 super practical steps. First, listen in silence. You have to actively carve out space away from the noise of the daily grind to actually hear anything your inner self is trying to say. Second, follow intuitive nudges. This is all about learning to trust those tiny whispers that might not make logical sense on a spreadsheet, but they just feel undeniably right in your gut. And third, notice synchronicity. Start paying close attention to meaningful coincidences. You know, those uncanny moments, like when you think of an old friend and literally a minute later they text you. Pay attention to that stuff. And when you start doing those 3 things, you experience this really beautiful shift. You move from constantly chasing things down, which is the exhausting hallmark of manual control, to naturally attracting them. It is a massive pivot from sheer effort to deep resonance. Because when you focus purely on your own alignment and just being authentically you, you naturally draw in the exact people and opportunities that are meant for your path, like a magnet. Okay, section 3. Navigating storms and detours. Because yes, you should expect some turbulence. Surrendering to this guidance definitely doesn't mean you avoid the rough stuff. Sometimes the path leads you straight into it. First up, you're going to hit storms. These are those sudden periods of intense chaos, where everything feels like it's just spinning wildly out of your control. Then, you'll encounter delays. This is that incredibly frustrating phase where it feels like your entire life has just ground to a complete and total halt for no reason. And finally, there are deserts. These are those isolating, deeply quiet times when you just feel totally lost, disconnected, and completely alone on your journey. But right here is where we completely reframe that turbulence. The source material delivers this absolutely incredible takeaway. These detours are not failures. They are part of the curriculum. I mean, what a game changer. Instead of looking at a delay as a failure or a storm as some kind of punishment, or just, the universe giving you a hard time, you realize they are teaching you exactly what you need for the very next leg of your journey. A pause isn't a dead end. It's just giving you the essential time required to integrate a new lesson. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is wasted on divine autopilot. Section 4. Evicting the backseat drivers. It is time to let go of the excess baggage. So what is our actual active job while we're on this journey? Well, you have to actively kick the backseat drivers right out of your vehicle. We're talking about old identities you've completely outgrown, lingering guilt from the past, and ambition that is rooted purely in fear, like grinding for a promotion just to prove your worth to other people. All of this stuff acts like a massive, heavy anchor. It weighs you down and creates so much static that your divine autopilot simply cannot function properly. You've got to drop the baggage.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the extraordinary new normal, the destination.
When you finally drop that baggage, you experience a profound upgrade. You shift completely away from that exhausting mental state of trying to figure every single tiny detail out in advance. And instead, you move into a felt sense of just connecting with what feels right moment to moment. You don't have to push, you don't have to grind, you just have to align. Let that sink in for a second. It means you can finally relax because you realize, on a deep level, that you are not navigating this complex world all by yourself. When you live from this place of deep, unwavering trust, the extraordinary literally becomes ordinary. Miracles stop being these rare, once-in-a-lifetime lightning strikes. Instead, they become the natural, expected outcome of simply being tuned in to that divine frequency. You expect things to work out for you, and they actually do. So, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. In a world that is just constantly screaming at you to hustle, to overplan, and to forcefully control every single aspect of your existence, what would genuinely change for you if you truly believed that your most important job was simply to get quiet and listen? Just think about that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you see your own path just a little bit clearer. Until next time, keep learning and keep flowing.